welcome. Before we get started, I think tonight, just a reminder on the rules, kind of our unspoken rules. If you would like to address the commission, we're more than happy to listen to what you have to say. We ask that you just raise your hand to be recognized, come up to the podium, tell us your name, where you live, and we'll go from there. Just be courteous when you speak, and please keep the chatter down amongst yourselves to nothing. We'd really appreciate that, because it gets really loud in here really fast. So. All right. We'll begin with appropriation ordinance number 1237.
The Solomon Services shortstop transformer, what?
So as a pass, so they require an increase to move transformer for their expansion. And generally, the customer pays for it. I don't know if the terms of credit on their own or not, but we billed them for that, and they haven't paid it yet.
The radio, I saw what the chief said. How many radios was that?
There were 6 for the handheld and 3 for vehicles. Then there were 9 total. Then there's like 8 or 6 different items on each radio.
Any other questions on the appropriation ordinance? And a motion to approve.
I move we approve appropriation ordinance number 1237.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve appropriation ordinance number 1237. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, next is the proposed minutes from the July 2nd, 2024 meeting, regular meeting. Look good. Any questions or concerns on those? Minutes stand approved as presented. Approve the agenda items to be added. I don't know if we can cover this in reports. I have a couple people approach me about the how long it's taking Highway 63 to get done. I don't know if you want to just.
You can do however you want, it's fine. You can add it.
Let's add it, let's make it item G. Anybody else have anything to add? All right, let's start with Palmer Road Bridge.
So, what you're saying?
I didn't see them.
Okay, well, I had on the August 2nd agenda, and I told her it was August the 9th, so we should have moved on. But the matter remains the same. It's the road that goes out town to the trailer courts. It's split between the city and the county as far as jurisdiction. They're proposing to replace it with a $400,000 structure, half of which would be the city's responsibility. They're willing to pay for it all up front and give the city 5 years to pay it back. Pictures were in the budget, or in the packet, from last year's inspection, the county and their folks. They're looking for the okay, what they've asked from you would be, yes, we'll participate for half the cost. And they'll do all the paperwork, because it is also in the floodplain course. Floodway.
And if we don't participate, they won't.
I don't know what will happen, I really don't. It's, I don't know.
We have a choice. There look to be holes in this bridge. Now, I'm not an expert, I was an engineer once in my life, but I'm looking up, if this picture is accurate, that seems to be an actual hole. So, it seems like it needs to be replaced. I don't know, do we have a choice here?
So the city attorney says it's a shared responsibility, but he doesn't know if it needs replaced or what it should be replaced with. You were here last year, they had tried to get a grant for it, they looked at other options, and in this proposal, there is another option that's slightly more expensive. So I don't know if all the options have been exhausted, or, because we even talked about low water bridge, but it's impractical there.
I mean, at this point, you've budgeted for it such that we can handle it over a 5-year period. So it seems like it's an unanticipated but affordable cost. It seems like a necessary repair. I don't know what further to say. They're not here to talk about it anymore. It seems we have options. That's the only thing I'd want to know. Is there any way at all, given that I have to assume this is a low traffic road, is there any other way at all to fix this without spending that much money? Because it needs to be fixed. Something needs to happen. I think that's the bottom line.
Well, I think the last time they were here and we asked them those very questions, they said that this was the cheapest way. I mean, that's
They don't want to spend any more than they have to either.
right.
So is that a replacement or repair?
They replaced the bridge.
Okay, for the 400,000?
Sorry, Bill, didn't see it there.
That's anyway.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Francis.
Mr. Mayor, so we have one engineer's quote, and certainly over the years, we've seen that, not every engineer sees things identical. Some are able to be, just come up with a little bit more innovative ideas or see a different route forward. One option that I think I'd like to consider is checking with a few other engineers to see if they can take a look at it, or what's their cost to take a look at it, and see if there's any alternative ideas. If we're looking at spending over $200,000 on a low-use bridge, I think it's worth checking with a few other engineers to see if there's any other ideas out there. And there's no real major time pressure. They said, the bridge will last another year or 2 or 3 before it's even in that critical stage that they really have to be forced to start planning. Yeah, there's holes on the edges, but it's not like they're planning to shut it down anytime soon, so it's not an unsafe structure. It's not ideal by any stretch. But I think we have the time to get a second opinion. That would be my position, Mr. Mayor.
I would agree. I also And I know I touched on this before, Maurice, and maybe we could do a little more follow-up on it. The bridge repair work that they did in town, bridge repair work that they did on Highway 24 going out to Bellevue, you know, they just put those, basically those big square. I can't
I
imagine.
think that actually costs more.
You really?
He looked at it, and I remember Bob gave that answer.
I
We went out and looked at it.
don't disagree with you, but.
That's what I seem to recall, but then, we can follow up, I mean, I can verify that, but that's definitely, that's what I recall.
But I also agree with Matt, I think you're right, we need to, something
Yeah, I
has to
would
be
just
done.
like, no, it's just uncomfortable to me that someone comes in and says, here's your one option, this is how much it costs, and you have to do it.
Right.
That's not much of a decision for us. So if we have more options, I prefer that.
Yeah, even if it's, even if it's gonna cost us a little bit of money to find out what those other options are, I think it's be worth it.
Okay.
All right, so we'll just carry it over? All right, let's move on. Storm damage RFQs. So, where was it?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
Yes, had the opportunity to review the city ordinances. And while I believe that there is some gray area in there, I would still like to recuse myself just to avoid any sort of conflict of interest.
Okay. You can stay. So we had, five different. I'm gonna let any commissioners, if Matt, you had a chance to look at them.
Well, I was probably the one who held it up from last time,
Yep.
because I hadn't seen any of this before, and I read them all. And I'm thankful to anyone who submitted, an input. What occurs to me is that whoever does the assessment, first of all, step number one, we started this because it would be of value to us to have someone who's in this business do the assessment. See what is the actual damage, what is our coverage, and then make sure that we get the coverage for the damage. I think it comes down to, you can do it in two ways. Someone could look at the damage, come up with an assessment, working with the insurance company, and then turn it back over to us, find people to do the work. Or the person who does the assessment also then does the work, or contracts out the work. I think the second model makes more sense, because that's the agreement. I mean, once they're working with the insurance company, that's the agreement for the amount that's gonna be done. So if we then go out and bid it, if the number's different, it doesn't seem to make sense. So, of the RFQs I read, I think that the, American Commercial Roofing, does the project most effectively, based on what I think. There's a lot of expertise, and I don't know exactly who's, so I get a sense there are people from more than one company in the room. It seems like there's a lot of expertise, and I appreciate the interest in helping the city. I think they're the best qualified for what, I'm not an expert, especially if you're dealing with the insurance firm. That's my opinion. And I do think that if we're gonna hire someone to do it, the person who does the assessment with the insurance company should oversee the work, because those are the numbers that they've agreed upon. And I think another thing that's important to remember is the only money that we're spending is our deductible. So it's not like we save any money if we get a lower bid on the project. And I think it would be a little bit weird if you came to an idea of how much the damage was through the assessment process, but then bid it out and got a different number. That seems to be a disconnect. I would, the only other thing I'd say is, I think we need to avoid, once we put someone in place to do this, I think we need to avoid them telling them how to do their business, like saying, you need to hire these, I think we need to be out of that, we just, I think those are the only things that I wanted to say. Yeah, so that's my take.
Anybody else?
Hey, Mr. Mayor, so from the very beginning, when we were taking a look at this and realized there's a lot to learn, and as we looked at it, one thing that I thought was very important and continue to think is very important is to allow the bidding process to be an open process. And one of the options in the RFQ was for a contractor to work with the city to assess the damages, to work with the insurance company to come up with the proper amounts for repairs, and then kind of help the city through the bid process, make sure we have some good bid packages, and then to allow the bidding to be an open process that any contractor can consider and submit bids for. And one of the options to do that was at no cost. So asking a contractor, would you be willing to help the city through that process for no cost, and also no guarantees to receive any of the bidded work, which is kind of normal. I mean, companies quote out things all the time. This is obviously more detailed, but there's detailed quotes in any business. So looking at all the RFQs and listening to the meetings, I believe Midwest Coatings has a lot of experience working with the city, and they have the experience going through this process. And also they seem to approach it on a more simple level, as far as not getting too complicated. And they seem to have the approach of working with the insurance company in a way that is fast and effective, but also in a way which allows them to do the work necessary. And also, I think one of the most important things is that they also will not be guaranteed any of the bidded work. So it's an open bid process, so any contractor can bid and win some of the work. So in my opinion, we should go with Midwest Coatings for all those reasons. And Mr.
Yeah, so, I would agree with Francis on some of the things you said there. I think that this is actually an incredibly large, very work-intensive project. I'm not sure if, maybe any of us have fully wrapped our heads around it. And I wonder, I know all of our local contractors can do good work, I don't doubt that. I do know you guys are also very busy. We've been getting storms since March, this morning. And I see this actually being a full-time job for the next year or two, and potentially foregoing any other business. And I think that I would agree with Francis, someone needs to handle the work with the insurance, with the bidding. And from what I saw, the company who's got experience doing that, who also is familiar with the community, is dedicated to subcontracting out of the local community, is VHS. So that would be my preference, that we roll with them. And I would like to strongly, if we are able to, in our agreement with them, to push for the local contractors across the board, roofing, siding, masonry, whatever it is. I don't know what flexibility we have there, if we can mandate that, we'll local contractors are selected, or that 80% of the work, of whatever, something like that. I think it's important that they get the chance to do the work, but I think where we are at in this process is finding someone to work with us, an insurance company. I never view the RFQ as selecting a contractor to do the actual work, and so that's my point of view, so readjust.
All right, so it doesn't matter what I think,
That's gonna
because,
make it difficult to get 3 votes.
yeah, you gotta get 3
I
votes,
mean,
and we have 3 different ideas, so my vote,
But it seems to me, I agree, of course, that we should have an open bidding process as much as possible, but I think this is a little different in the sense that you have a third party, the insurance company involved. So they are really sort of the arbiter, they're deciding with someone what is the amount of money that's going to be paid in order to do the project based upon this is the work that needs to be done. So they've already gone through, this is the work. So essentially that has already happened. And so then that just has to be done in accordance with the agreed upon specifics between the person, with the insurance adjuster and the person who looked at it with them. That's where I don't, whereas I agree, it's great, the open market is always the best way, but because of the insurance, I don't see that that's in play in the same way here. See what I'm saying?
I do, Matt, I agree with you, and I'm sure there's probably 20 people in here that will correct me if I'm wrong in what I'm gonna say, but if we have a contractor come in and say, I'll do it for $1 million, that's what the insurance company's gonna give us, $1 million. Am I right, or am I mean,
Well, but the
so,
insurance I think the insurance company would say, you have to do, it's gonna be this much for this building because
Yep.
of this particular repair with this particular, up to this code with these products and this, that's a very specific thing.
yes,
So if someone comes in and says, well, I'm gonna bid to do exactly that, or less than the insurance company said, then I don't know how that would happen. I don't know how that would happen. And secondly, I don't know that there's a value to that.
not for the city,
Not-
there's no value for the city.
Maybe for the insurance company, that's the thing, it's a little bit weird. It's not, solve this problem for, the open market, it seems to me, is here's the problem, please, just tell us how you're gonna solve it, like the bridge. And if you have a good solution for a lower price, okay. But this is, the insurance company said, this is how we're gonna solve the problem. That's the first part. So I just don't see what the bid process is at that point. Other than I know a guy who's gonna sell me these shingles for less, but it's, see what I'm saying? It seems to me very different. So, it's interesting, we have 3 different companies, because I think we have some really good people who can do this stuff.
So, yeah, so we have 3 different proposals, or 3 different companies proposed. I've learned in the last 48 hours how important, or I've been informed of how important it is in the last 48 hours to use local people for, local businesses that are 100% local. I don't know, with the scope of this project, I don't know if any of these companies that put in an RFQ could provide 100% local people to do all the work. Now, the company may be local, but I would be very surprised if every person they have working on this project are 100% local, like live in St. Mary's. I would be shocked if that were the case. So, we've got 3 different ideas from 3 different commissioners, and we need 3 votes to get anything done. But I'm still of the opinion that if there is a way to share this workload, because I agree with Nate, I think this is not gonna be something that's just gonna, this isn't a weekend side job.
This would be one claim though, right?
It could be 2 from previous discussions.
What do you mean, when you mean one, even if we have multiple
If
companies?
you're working with, if you're making one claim, then it seems to me the process of determining how much, what is the work that needs to be done and how much the insurance is gonna pay, has to be a single process.
Yeah, no, I
So, and again, getting to how the work is shared with the actual contractors, that's where, I guess that's the big, I don't, once the assessment process is done with the insurance company, I'm not sure the city needs to be involved in that, or wants to be involved in that. But the determination's already been made.
And I don't know, I also, another question I would have is if it were a shared endeavor, would any of these companies completely back out? You know,
So
say,
that's what I'm asking, how would it be a shared endeavor unless it's more than one claim?
I mean, I don't know, you're saying legally could we do it, or?
But it would be, I don't, it would be a little bit weird to me that you'd have two different groups going out with the insurance company trying to decide what the actual damage.
No, I'm not saying multiple groups going out to decide the damage. I'm talking about when it comes down to actually doing the work.
Yeah.
If we choose somebody to be the quote-unquote
General
general contractor, then they would guarantee that these other companies that have, that have put in a lot of effort here would get a crack at some of the work. Because it is a very big job. So that's kind of, that was the point I was making. But- And I don't know if anybody else is even interested in that, sharing, wanting to divvy up the work. If the rest of the commission isn't interested in it, then it's a moot point. Because if I'm the only one who, is looking at it from that perspective. But, yeah, so also whoever we choose to go out with the insurance company to look at everything, does that mean they automatically get to do the work? Or they get involved? I mean, or do we go with somebody else? So, it's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, Dan, come on, I'm sorry.
Right, Dan Rickman, Partner Commercial Roofing. I agree with Matt's assessment exactly on how this thing should move forward. And, I have worked with Pat Shedder in the past, and, if we could move forward with
I'm sorry, go ahead. Who's
Pat Shedder, just with DHF,
Thanks.
if we could move forward with maybe revoting as the two of us coming in as a partnership, as a teaming agreement to take on the project, I think that would be a good way to handle it,
You mean to go out with the insurance company or do all the work?
the entire thing,
The entire thing? Okay.
the way Matt expressed.
So hold on, Dan, I got a couple questions for you.
Sure.
So would you guys just split it down the middle, 50-50? Or, I mean, maybe that's too simplistic. Maybe you have to look at it and say, well, we can do.
Matt, you wanna come up? We just thought of it right now, so.
Oh, okay.
Patrick Shenner, I live in Wamego, Kansas.
But you're with DHS.
Yeah, president of VHS.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know, I guess my thought was, we could do 50-50, with projects and break them up. You've got more roofing experience than us. I guess when we were first thinking about this was, it would be managing the process of working with the insurance company and getting all the claims straightened out. And then not just the roof work, but the non-roof work. We would need an expert on the roofs to work with.
Yeah, I feel like there's a way that we're gonna have a lot of expertise in those areas too, that we would be able to work together, just based on past projects we've done together, so.
Not sure how the commission would wanna visit both, but I'm okay with 50-50 if that's how it works, and with relying on us to work it out.
Sounds good, partners.
Well, that was, what I was trying to get at was I would like VHS to run out, I'd like them to lean on our local experts, use them, and ideally let them weigh in, help them, have them do the work. I don't know if that's exactly what you're proposing, but I see you guys as I know you guys built a church, I mean, I think you guys know what you're doing across the board, not just roofing, so,
We look at this as being a resource to the city. However the commission decides, our thought process was, if we can be a resource to, really take the manager's work out of this and work with the insurance company to put the whole package together, and bid with local contractors, that's how we would do it. I mean, I'm assuming 95% of the work is roof work, and there's some other little stuff that roofers don't like doing. That's probably stuff we would bid on ourselves. And that's how I guess I saw it going. And I'm also completely okay splitting 50/50 with Dan. However, we're a resource to the city, we'd be happy. Even if you don't choose us, we're okay. That's, however you wanna use us, or, we're good.
Thank you, Brett. Yes, sir.
I rescue Dan McMeans, business partner, American Commercial Roofing. Partnership's brand new to me too, just found out about it, same as you. But I do encourage you, and it's a good deal. At the end of the day, we've kind of held the same stance on this since it started. A general contractor is someone who coordinates appropriate labor, appropriate materials, pricing and all of that. One thing that I would just like to kind of add on here is, absolutely, every contractor in here will probably hire some local people. But we actually brought some of our team here. This is our actual W-2 employees of ACR right here in the city. And just show of hands if you've touched a multi-six-figure project here nationally as part of the ACR team. So we're doing it right here in this city with our employees. So when we talk about running point or contracting local, every dollar that goes through ACR benefits multiple families in the community. On top of that, Frank Rickamini, who was an employee, is now a subcontractor. Some other guys in here who are subcontractors that live here in the city as well. So it's not just about when a check goes, it somehow finds a dollar back to a local guy with a hammer. It's keeping money in your local banks, right, in your local system, in your local families, your payrolls. It's not just about making sure that somewhere down the line, some guy with a hammer lives in St. Mary's. I think that's a unique thing that we bring. Last time I was up here, I actually spoke about splitting everything with the local contractors because admittedly, I had flown out to help with the rebuilding efforts and was told that there was supposed to be a kind of a presentation that day of how it is that we package our stuff. And I know that you weren't here for that, you had to step out. But a lot of the process that we've talked about is actually pretty identical. The difference is just proactive versus reactive. You know, we talk about being quick. The reality is 90% of our estimating is done. It doesn't get much more complex or much more simple than done for you, and it's pretty much there. We are recommending that you do a code update because 1991 is a really long time. You have no IRC, IEC, IEBC, or IBC adoptions at all in St. Mary's. If you're running off 1991 outdated codes, it'd be an excellent time to make that a priority to make sure that you build your community back better. Our local people here understand that we constantly do projects here, and this graphic sucks, unfortunately. But just since 2021, this is what happens when I heat map our CRM for insurance only work in St. Mary's. It's a little bit blurry, I apologize. But that's commercial and residential, and just in the last 3 years.
So what is it?
That's a heat map of insurance only bids, construction that we've done here in St. Mary's, the community and the town itself. So we feel uniquely close to the community because our people live here, they work here. And on top of that, we've definitely done as many roofs on the homes and the commercial buildings here as anybody. So with that, we know that there's some updates that need to happen, and some of it needs to happen on our level, and some of it needs to happen on the council level, just to make sure that we can build it back to the top standard that the city deserves. So I think a partnership with BHS takes care of the labor concerns that we have. I mean, we do have access to dozens of subcontractor crews. I mean, we roofed Woodway apartments in 5 days, and the feedback was that we were less disruptive than their trash day. They're on our list of people to call. You can do that. We also did, like I said, the Dominican Sisters of Idaho. If you guys want to call and ask them how that project went, I'm pretty sure you get some great feedback on how the projects are on our capability nationwide.
to take that type of project and put it literally walking distance of our offices and of the heart of our team, I don't think is quite the task that we think it may be, especially when we know that we do have another quality contractor we can partner with who is also prioritizing local people running the local reconstruction. Now, I do know last time, it might seem like I was dominating the conversation here, but I think appropriately licensed contractors, I do think the fact that just because there is a low standard of a code requirement here at the time, I don't think that has to be the case moving forward. I don't think just because there's no permitting processes for a lot of this, the general contractor isn't required to be hired. I don't think it's inappropriate to have one. There's a reason that other places have adopted these standards and they enforce them. And I would just encourage St. Mary's during its growth spurt here to make it a priority to do the same.
Hi, Doyle, come on up.
Thank you. Doyle Pearl, live here in St. Mary's. So my comments are, we had roof damage and building damage on our residence. And the insurance came out, and I was fairly satisfied with the assessment. Brought in a contractor, American, to get some prices put together. And it was brought to my attention that there's other things that are damaged. And had they not brought that to my attention, it wouldn't have got fixed. And so my point is that I have an ally above my consumer level to represent us. And that was great value. I would have left some money and some things on the table on those repairs on our residents. And, I've got experience in construction and different things. I thought, thought they had it covered, but they pointed out a lot of different times. And so, that's an ally for the city to have that type of representation and the experience that they just expressed on a spokesman above the city level to communicate with the insurance, because the insurance is gonna, they've got their agenda, and they wanna, satisfy a customer, but to a minimum. And so, I would highly recommend that you would consider that for your representation. And, Gerard, I don't know if we served together back then, we had storm damage a number of years ago. And after the fact, we learned that we left some money. And so that was brought to the attention of city management. So when this storm, at the magnitude it was, they Maurice, to his credit, and you all too probably, to, get that representation. And with their idea and their experience that it's going to serve the city well. I agree with Commissioner Childs on, I think, Americans is to work.
Thank you, Doyle. Anybody else have any comments, questions? Come on.
So Phil Chris again with Roof Technologies, and there's a lot of familiar faces in here that I personally help. And I just want to reiterate that Roof Technologies, it has a full in-house staff that specifically deals with large loss claims. And I know we're in St. Mary's and 1.6 or 1.9 seems like a big number, but it's actually a small job compared to some of the claims that we have currently in the process. And so we have licensed, certified foremans to project manage a job. We have all the equipment, the lifts, the trucks to bring in whatever we need to do. And we do this full time, this is all we do, deal with insurance claims. And I think, RFQ had a bit of that in there, I think, and so I just want to speak on that.
Thank you. Okay, so we just need to figure out pick somebody that's gonna be, the point company on this, right? Bill?
Did anyone change their mind?
Huh?
Did anyone change their mind?
Not yet.
Well,
I mean-
I have a follow-on question.
Matt might, who knows?
Bill Bosworth, St. Mary's. I'm not a contractor, so I'm not in the business, but is the question that we're asking, do we want a general to oversee everything that's gonna use a lot of these other guys as subs? Or are we looking at somebody that they're gonna do it all? I guess that's my question. Are we looking for a general to oversee the project that's gonna use, because I don't know if any of you guys, are you guys gonna do it all? Or are you gonna use subs to do some of the other things?
So the reality is every contractor in here is whether they're calling themselves a general contractor or not, have explained the process of general contracting. And that they don't do everything, or maybe some do everything, right, and have subs and are GCs. Some are roofing contractors who are not GCs, but will still partner with a contractor that can do the job, okay? In practice, it's the same thing. The question here is, do you want one contractor to independently deal with the insurance?
Gentlemen, if y'all wanna have a discussion, you're more than welcome. I think we're all familiar with, Bill, to answer your question, from my point of view, to answer your question, what I said at the last meeting was, if we picked a general contractor, I wanted to see these other companies that have put in the time and effort to submit an RFQ to get
Get a crack at it, seems reasonable.
a piece of the action.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that, because I don't know all the guys, and not, like I said, it's not like, I'm just like, just, right.
We haven't, that was just my opinion, I was one of four, obviously, that are gonna be in the process of this, but that's what I wanted to see. Now, whether we do that or not, I don't know, that's what we're trying to figure out.
Okay, thank you.
Matt, go ahead.
Well, I think that Mr. Pearl restated very well, but our fundamental goal is we want that other person, because it's not our expertise, we want that other person to help us make sure that we get things fixed based upon the coverage that we have. That's what we want. We don't want to have Maurice having to do that or this.
So, I'm sorry to interrupt, but let me just make sure I understand what you're saying. So, are you saying we go one company, figure out what's wrong, figure out how much we're gonna get?
Well, I'm saying that's the function that we need. And the question is, who's gonna provide that function? The answer is, that's what we're trying to figure out, and there are a lot of people who apparently can do it. What I wanna know now, based upon this meeting, is what does it mean if American Family Roofing and BHS are splitting things 50-50? I don't know what that means. And it's a nice idea that people work together, and I don't necessarily want to extend the discussion too far, but I don't know what that means. So I don't know if we were to vote at this point, I don't know exactly what I'd be voting for. Would it be possible for Dan to address that?
Yes, so what I was hoping to do by this was move things along for the city. So I agree with your method that you stated needs to happen. A general contractor who has experience doing this, needs to sell the claim, and needs to manage the whole process after that. Okay? I've heard two other commissioners state that they were gonna use someone else. One of those someone else's is somebody that I respect, do business with, and would absolutely partner with. What does that mean to the city? It means you're gonna get the two best, and we need to sit down and talk about who's doing which part, but we both can do
Right,
the
so
whole
that's
thing.
my,
But
we have to know.
instead of contracting with American Commercial Roofing, the city's gonna contract with, we will have a teaming agreement, and you'll be contracted with, it'll be one contract to do the exact same thing.
Okay, so however you decide to do the assessment part
Yes,
together, you'll work
Just
that out.
us work that. That's what I'm
Thank you, Dan. I see it as two different things, Matt. I see it as settle the claim and then manage the project.
Absolutely.
And are those two items gonna be handled by the same either company or group of companies? And
I think it has to be.
I
It's a
don't-
single process.
I don't think it has to be. I think if the claim gets settled, it doesn't have to be done, then the work doesn't have to be done or managed by the company that helps us settle the claim. Now, it may not be, we may not find a company that's willing to do that without charging us some extravagant fee. And then, we have to look at that obviously. But, I don't think that just because you're working with the insurance company to help settle the claim, that you then automatically become the manager of the project. Now, maybe industry-wide, you guys are all like, that guy's crazy. You don't know what the hell he's talking about. Nobody does it that way. And if that's the case, then yeah, certainly, I'm willing to look at it, but that's kind of what I was thinking.
I would like to hear from your perspective what the pros of splitting that up would be, because I don't see.
Well, we've got it's just two different things. So we settle the claim, figure out somebody to go around. I mean, that's one of the original things we talked about, was somebody to go with the insurance adjuster and say, it's like, I had an insurance adjuster come out to my house. There was nobody there to represent me. I sure as hell can't do it.
Right.
And they tried to come in with a very, very low amount and didn't work for me. So got another adjuster to come out with my contractor.
Right.
Now that number, I don't know the exact number yet, but I'm pretty sure that number is gonna go way up, what they're gonna give me. So that's, to me, is the first phase, first thing to do. Settle that claim, figure out what we're going to get. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm legally obligated to hire that said contractor to do the work, or to even manage the project. And I don't think we are either as a city, if we have an agreement with a contractor or a company to come in and help settle the claim, then are we legally obligated to have that same company manage the project?
I think the answer is no. So I said, I think it has to be, I don't think it materially has to be. I think it makes zero sense from practical reality that you've separated out. Because just think about, you're gonna go try to figure out how to do something. You say, I'm gonna do this, and this. That's my plan. This is how I'm gonna do this, how to do cost. And then you say, and that's it. You say, hey, thanks for that opinion. Hey, you guys who've never looked at this before, come do this. That doesn't make any sense to me.
That's fine.
That's how I've seen it. So I think technically, no, it doesn't have to, obviously, no, it doesn't have to be connected technically. But I think you get into this chute, which is, we're gonna look at this whole project. And part of the determination of what and how the thing is gonna be done has to be done with the insurance company. So the person who's working with the insurance company has to be involved in some way, because he knows exactly what's been agreed to with the rest of the process, I think. Not because it's legally necessary, but because it's the only way that makes efficient sense.
Anybody else?
Sure, it was fair. Yes, thanks, Dan. That's, if you're willing, Mike from Midwest, come just walk through the process of working with the insurance company, defining the scope of work, and then if the project were to be put out into various bid packages, what would that look like?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Mike Robinson with Midwest Coating. We are a Topeka-based company. And so, yeah, we're not actually from the city of St. Mary's. I do have 160 acres, just about 3.5 miles from where we're sitting right now. So we're not that far out.
You want city water?
Horrible well water. So the way that we approach that is different. And so fundamentally, we are on a regular basis in a situation where we are either functioning as a general contractor and subcontracting out a portion of the work, or we are working for a general contractor as a subcontractor, and both ways work great. The way that we tend to approach this type of scenario, which this claim, it really isn't all that big. And when you look at it, we're dealing with a lot of, pump houses and dugouts and bathrooms, and so 32 structures seems like a lot. It wouldn't be the biggest project that I worked this week by a stretch. It's just not that big. It is by far already the most administratively burdensome process, just by virtue of the fact that we're in like our 5th city commission meeting talking about the same thing without having a path forward. So the way that we approach that is very different. So the concept of you need one person to walk with the adjuster is not a concept that I prescribe to at all myself. Now, you have to know who is speaking on behalf of the customer or the agency when you are working with the adjuster, but it's very common for me to have a couple of other contractors with me, because determining the scope of work right from the beginning and where you were getting at is, you know, the insurance company is gonna tell you what you get. Well, the insurance company is gonna tell you what you get based on what you agree to as the scope of work through very detailed look at every single piece of property that is involved in the claim. I don't think that anyone in here has the single best set of eyes to catch 100% of everything on any walk. And so everyone in here also has more than one person with more than one specialty who can take a look at things from different angles. An approach that I like to use is right from the beginning. I like to have a separate contractor walk with me when I can. And the reason is you get a better scope of work. It gets a better outcome for the customer in the long run. I know that's not exactly, well, that's not anything like what you've been hearing recently, but even when I'm walking a property, I have a property walk tomorrow at 1:30. There will be probably 6 different commercial roofing companies at that walk. The first thing that I will do is approach probably about 3 of them, just based on who is there. Pick the couple that are, 2 or 3 that I want to partner up with, and we'll look at it together. We'll walk around, we'll analyze core samples together. We'll analyze whatever damage might be existing in place to different parts of that building. We'll look at it together because it's going to give us all the ability to turn in a better bid, a better scope of work. This one isn't insurance, but it's essentially the same thing. You have to figure out what are the details, because the details matter. The bulk of that work is up front. So there have already been a lot of assessments done on your properties, that's great. I think the commission should probably ask for all of those no matter who you go with, because there are details in there that do matter. Once that price is set by the insurance company, it's usually wrong because it's usually low. And it's amazing what poor clerics they must have with insurance companies, because they always seem to omit things or accidentally round down by a significant margin or those types of things. And you have to have those sets of eyes that will catch that, correct that, and hold them accountable for getting it right, based on actual science, based on physics, based on math. And that process usually isn't that bad. You put together a quality scope of work and then get a bid that shows what you think that's gonna cost. You compare that to what the estimator comes up with in an exact rate. It's usually not that far off. And when it is off, I mean, when I say it's not that far off, it's almost always off, and it's almost always off not in the customer's favor. You take the time to analyze that and figure out where your differences are, fix that, and move forward. So, yeah, the approach that I like to use isn't, hey, I need all the work so that I can get to work first, and then we'll answer questions and come up with details like what we're gonna do later. The way that I like to approach that is, I would love to see my company get a couple of the buildings and a lot of other companies get a couple of the buildings. We had talked about a 75-25 split in the last meeting. I want no part of 75% of this project to actually do the work. Most of the jobs are too small and tedious to warrant bringing out one of my crews, and I don't want to split my crews up very bad. So it doesn't make sense for us to do most of the work that's going to be bid on this through the course of this project. The service that I told you before, the service that I offer, and I offer this to you today, I offered it to you all along, I've offered it to you forever, and I will offer it to you forever in the future, is to be a partner and try to help you get as good as you can, to try to get it right and to move forward, with absolutely no hard feelings about any decisions that you make today or next week or whatever. I'll always be in the community and I'm always willing to help you step through that stuff.
So you're only making this more difficult, but I think you have described essentially the same process, really. I think that but this is the point at which the differentiation happens, where that assessment has been made, however you do it, but then that's made based precisely upon looking at it, getting the details, like writing down presumably what has to be done on this roof with which kind of materials. And then if you step away from it at that point, that's where it gets weird to me.
Yeah, so stepping away from it at that point, I think done before, I'll do it again. And stepping away from it at that point is easy. If you have
Well,
one.
for you, but I mean, but then, for the guy who comes in, how do you know that the thing that you agreed on is the thing that's gonna happen?
So that's why getting that proper scope of work is so critical, and BHS can tell you for sure, if your scope of work is not accurate from the beginning, when they're serving as a general contractor and they're doing these monster projects, which they do huge projects, and we love working with them, they're a great company. If you have these monster projects and your scope of work isn't right down to the letter and the proper detail on everything, it's gonna be very difficult to ensure that you're gonna get the right work done. If all you're doing is saying, hey, we're gonna go with the lowest bidder on the base bid for the project and that's it, you better hope that scope was correct. Or you don't know what you're gonna get. You may have missed an important detail that's gonna really bite you in the end that some contractor found and went, oh, hey, we can knock off a ton of money here because they didn't specifically spell out that we need to do this. And that is part of that game. Now, the one thing about the project that we have here, dividing it up is a little bit different and is a little bit tougher, because if you're trying to bid out one pump house and it has a damaged gutter, and that's the only damage to it, that's tough. So you're gonna have to package some stuff together probably to be able to get it to make sense for people to even take an interest in bidding, in order to get good, reputable contractors, appropriately licensed,
So if I was
appropriately
making an
qualified.
editorial comment to the group, for me, at that point, that's precisely what I wanna do. I think that's what general contractors do.
Yeah, right,
Isn't that
right.
I mean, I don't know, maybe Maurice wants to do that, and maybe Francis wants to do that. I don't have the capability
Yeah.
of doing that.
And we would still be around for that process. We would still be around for the bid process, soliciting the bids, coming back, taking a look at the bids and making sure that they're appropriate and cover what we asked for. We would still be around for that. Where I'm saying that we would step out is as soon as you package together a bathroom, a couple of pump houses and 6 dugouts and say, okay, this is a bid package, and then get your bids on it, you take a look at it, and then you don't have to go with the lowest base bid, you can go off of whatever criteria you want and spread the work however you want, based on the bids that come in. We say, okay, we got a winner for this one, we got a winner for this one, we got a winner for this one, all right. Hopefully, we would have a little piece of that pie, have a roof or two out of it. We go get to work on our roofs, and the winning bidders on the other roofs go get to work on their roofs. It's just not quite as complicated as it seems. It's labor intensive for sure. It takes a lot of communication. It takes a lot of collaboration.
We've got a lot of good companies around here, this is the problem.
Yeah.
And they all acknowledge that the other guys are good too.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate, no matter who you go with on this, and, this is one chapter, and I think everybody's gonna walk away from it at the other end a little smarter on an awful lot of things. We'll be around, look forward to working with you on whatever we can do right now or in the future, and yeah, let's get this done.
Thanks, Mike, appreciate it. Frank, good to see you, Frank, by the way.
Thank you, thank you, gentlemen.
I don't wanna get directly into the conversation about how it should go down. I think that's been spoken to on both sides pretty well. I do have my own opinion on that, but that's not really why I'm here. I wanted to just speak to, because there were, from a couple of you gentlemen, I think there were just some, maybe some concern or doubt that the community would be up to handling the business that needs to be handled here at the city for this job. So, and I would just, it's really an ask when I comment, is just, I would just ask you to challenge us to do that. You know, I know there's a lot of people with a lot of energy, a lot of resources. This little community has, I've lived around the world, this little community has more nationwide businesses per capita than anywhere in the world. Challenge us. My mom, widowed mother of 15 kids with a little dog business when, I'll give you the same compliment here. When she, when people called her from Japan or Dubai to buy a dog, she didn't say, oh, I'm not set up to sell to Dubai or Japan. She just figured it out. And your dad's the best example, Francis. You just grow with the needs, because the definition of a man, which your father was, which my father was, is take care of your business. Our community, our business. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Come on up.
I'm Matt, I'm from St. Mary's, and I had a quick question about the reason for splitting out all of the bids. Are you looking for equality and matching the right builder to the right job, or is it about money? It can't be about money, right? It's in the church.
Not about money.
So if we have a VHS, and I know VHS does a lot of commercial work, they've done in the building departments of Manhattan right now, and ACR, if they're coming together, why is it, I'll just move this along with the two combined bid. I'm just personally, I worked with Dan since 2003, and he's local, all his guys are local, and he buys with all his different businesses over $70 million annually from this community. It's something that really we should look at solidifying. I'll personally have the same testimony as Mr. Pearl. I tried doing it myself. I've got several apartments, tried doing a claim, Chuck walked me through it, of course it didn't go right, and I had a high deductible claim, and the amount of money they gave me was less than the materials it was gonna cost to cover it. So I delayed, I was trying to get the tenant to do it and split rent, and then the time it lapsed, it's been 2 years, so the statute of limitations had lapsed. Thanks for reaching out to Dan, saying that he was doing this, and he was able to go back to the insurance and advocate for me to get the full policy, but even after I had swapped to another provider. And so I think if there's anyone in this community that's gonna be able to represent you guys at the insurance level, it's Dan, 100%. We should have expertise at VHS for all the other work. You heard, Pat, which their name was, I said he would bring Dan, and lawyers reach out to Dan to do the, to help them when they're representing this insurance policy. So, yeah, I'm related to Dan, but I 100% agree. These are brothers and cousins in there.
Are there people related to Dan?
Well, I'm just saying. Vote for me and put on my cousin's table.
I only brought a third of them.
Thanks, Matt. Yes, come on up. Yes, ma'am.
Liz Ward, I work for First Roofing, I live right in the street here, practically see my house from here, being a 6 months pregnant, be a pretty easy run. The only reason that I was able to buy a house, live in this town, do what I do is because of Dan. Dan here at Commercial Roofing, they were able to give me the opportunities that I needed to be self-sufficient and eventually be married to my husband. We were able to buy a house in this town. We have already significantly raised the property value on it because we're local. Because we work with people who work here. When I first came to St. Mary's 15 years ago in 2009, this town looked very different. Most of you probably remember what downtown looked like. It was a ghost town. The businesses were not doing well, but over the last 10 years or so, there's been a significant push to buy local, shop local, work with your local people, and if the city will invest in that, I think that's made a significant difference. It's been choose whatever you wanna do personally, but, you know, as the city, we wanna reinvest our tax dollars, I think, in our local community. And, I'd be thrilled to work with PHS as well. You know, they obviously put a lot of value into our community and the surrounding communities. They bring a lot of value to the project, and, what, like Zane was describing is called supplementing. I personally have done a lot of that. We look over the scope of work, find out what's missing, and talk to the insurance company about it, bring up that value for the homeowner. You know, when you are advocating for your homeowner, it's, you know, not about making an extra buck for you, it's about ensuring that the homeowner or the city is indemnified, that the insurance company is paying out properly according to code, and we do that day in and day out. As far as a time commitment, we did just Religion of Sisters of Idaho. We filed that claim with them 2 years ago and went about with the insurance from halfway across the country, flying back and forth. And we went from a $350,000 claim to a $714,000 claim. And we still did millions of dollars in business residentially right here. So I think we're up to the challenge if you would accept that.
Thank you. Come on up.
Zach Warwick with St. Mary's. I'm not as eloquent as my wife. But if you wanna, you know, if you're thinking about, hey, you know, are these people up to the task? You know, maybe even, I don't know if you guys have even looked at the reviews of the companies on Google at all. McGee Roofing, I think, was one of your contractors. They have 33 reviews, 4.3 stars. Midwest Coating has 8 reviews, 4.5 stars. Roof Technologies has 1 star, 5 star review. American Commercial Roofing has 141 5-star reviews. I think we put a lot of effort in to take care of our clients, and supplementing is I think it was one of our fortes. We model the insurance companies accountable to the people that are insuring. So and Dan and Teresa have been, you know, when I was out of seminary, didn't really have a clue what I was going to do. It gave me an opportunity and provided me a new future. So, and our hope is to hire a lot more great people. So, the hope that you can support small business, your local business. Actually, I have an excerpt from one of my clients sent me this. She was hoping to be here tonight, but she couldn't. Hopefully I can find it. Let's see if I can here. Her name is Joan Bell. I think she used to teach at the school. Here we go. She says, this was she just sent me an excerpt. She said this research done for habits of highly effective small towns. This was in 2019. Making it big in rural America requires paying attention to little things. Adopt these 7 traits. 1, having a great awareness of local entrepreneurship and support it. 2, work with local college and high schools to encourage entrepreneurship. 3, train young people in the skills. 4, focus on each industries. 5, refine their central value propositions. 6, recognize the importance of the arts and museums and attracting people and firms. 7, constantly evaluate the total portfolio of offerings as a business destination. Equality for all from wherever is not on the list of trades included. So that was from Joan Bell.
Thank you.
So, real quick, Joan Deal used to be my neighbor. Houston, I think exactly. Thanks.
Anybody else, any comments, questions, concerns?
I was just gonna say, you know, water seems to be muddier, it feels like. But I've heard from the last meeting that this is gonna be a substantial project. I heard Mike say it's not that big of a project. I think this is also not a one-time thing. The weather is gonna keep being the weather. I would rather err on, you know, prefer treating it as a larger project, even though it may not necessarily be one in the eyes of some. I think it's important to have VHS. I am 100% okay if you guys want to partner, but my preference is that VHS is involved heavily in the front end. Not just for this, but for future. I mean, we're gonna get more weather, so this isn't, we're not talking about just this one.
Well, but I don't think we're obliging ourselves to follow the same answer for every single situation. I think what we've decided for sure is we want someone to help us through this process whenever it happens.
Yeah, but I don't wanna do this again.
This is
So,
great.
I would rather
What are you
just-
talking about? Do you wanna talk about the library? I'm just kidding.
I think we pick someone who can run this and be our liaison going forward, and if they wanna merge, I don't care. But what's best for the city is that the city gets the work done, and I think that's what we need to do, we can focus on, so.
Well, can I suggest we don't address that question tonight, let's just focus on this. Is that okay?
Yeah, no, I'm just,
Do you wanna focus on settling the
I
claim?
just wanna get this, because time is moving, and you know, with the more storms we have, the more difficult it is to tell that we have a number of assessments. So I would like to reiterate that I'm very thankful to everyone who is interested, and I am very impressed with everyone's capabilities, truly. I mean, what Mike was trying to say was, with the administrative burden, it's fun to work with clueless commissioners. Thank you. But I think we do need to move forward. I continue to support American Commercial Roofing. I like the idea of your working together. I don't know how we vote on that, other than to say, I would support the idea of their working together in a partnership to settle this in partnership and on behalf of the city.
Reese, do you want a motion or just a?
Well, so at this point, there's nothing to move on.
Right.
It would be a consensus to enter into agreement with whatever, and then they have to turn back an agreement like that to enter into.
Well, I'm still of the opinion that we're talking about two different things. Settling the claim, managing the project. Whoever helps us settle the claim, in my eyes, that doesn't mean they get the project. That doesn't mean they manage the project. But and I don't need a long explanation, I don't even need a show of hands or anything. There may be companies out here present tonight that if they don't get 100% of the work, they're not even interested in being a part of the moving forward. If that's the case, so be it. I'm still of the opinion that multiple companies can be involved in this. So that's my opinion.
And I'm convinced, based on what I've heard from everyone, that multiple companies are gonna be involved in this,
I'm
because
not.
that's how the work's gonna happen.
I don't share that opinion, but yes, Dan.
That's the part that I keep trying to drive home and don't feel like makes it home. You know, I was trying to not have to read this, but I'm gonna read it because I'll get distracted otherwise. I've called St. Mary's my home for more than 40 years. My wife Teresa and I chose to raise our 11 children here and establish multiple successful businesses. Our enterprises currently employ 38 local residents and serve more than 300 community members. Annually, our business buys between $7 and $8 million worth of construction materials in this town. The sales taxes benefit this community and help these businesses continue to grow. Making a vote for American Commercial Roofing in partnership with VHS, the only subcontractors and people working on the buildings here and the materials not bought from here will only be subsidized because they're not available here. You are picking your community if you choose us. If you're not, God damn.
Thank you. Just a consensus on someone to move forward with settling the claim, or?
Because there's nothing to sign or to approve in that sense, other than the consensus to move forward with X, and then we could have them provide a document that would be reviewed by the attorney and just present it to someone.
I would like American Commercial Roofing and VHS to partner to help us fix this storm damage by assessing the damage and executing the work.
I'm gonna go with Midwest Coating to help assess the damage, settle the claim.
VHS, and again, I don't care if there's a partnership or not. If that's the way it's gotta be to get done, I'll go with VHS partnership.
Maybe Mr. Mayor. So, just want to address one thing, the concept of supporting local. I'm not sure if you can find a person that wouldn't agree with supporting local in St. Mary's. So, to try to cause a division based on somebody's opinion on a project to determine whether they support local or not, I don't think it makes any sense. And so when I take a look at this, working with an elected body, public property, since day one, I've approached it in a way that said I would prefer to have the bids be an open bid process, so all the local contractors have a chance at them. And there is a process to follow that will allow the city to negotiate with the insurance company to get a defined scope of work and put those bids out so local contractors can bid them. And I still believe that is the proper process, and I believe Midwest Coatings has the ability to work with the city to define the scope of work, to make sure the numbers match, and help us put together bid packages that make sense for contractors to consider. So I remain with my initial idea, I remain with the decision I made after these past several meetings, and I still think it's the best route to go for all local contractors, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So Maurice,
So we have two for Midwest Coatings, one for a combo of ACR VHS and one just VHS. I mean, you could ask one of the two if they would change their vote. That's where you're at.
I'd like to address one more time, please.
I'll give you a chance here, Dan, in a minute. We gotta get this, I want this, we've been doing this a long, way too long.
So you can put me through the combo, you want to change your vote.
So what combo?
The combo of VHS
Alright, so
and American Commercial. So we're stuck.
You know, Mr. Mayor, I disagree with this decision I'm gonna make, but looks like we got people not budging. I've been making votes for the last many, many years on a lot of different levels. I get it. I hate the word compromise, but sometimes you just gotta do it. I do not like the approach that I'm going to support. I don't like isolating the bid process. Under the circumstances, if that's what it takes to move this on, I'll support it. But I don't think it's good practice. But at the same time, it's also not good practice to not make a decision and go into an impasse. And I appreciate Mike from Midwest, your work, and the volunteering opportunity that you were willing to offer the city to help us through the process. I absolutely think your route and working with you is the correct decision, but the reality is we're at an impasse. So I apologize, I told you I would support you, I do, and I still absolutely think you're the right decision. But for the sake of moving this along, I'll support the VHS and American.
Okay, so, just so I'm clear, this is just to get the plan settled, or this for managing the project as well.
This is to manage the project. Otherwise, we're at the.
No, that's fine, if that's, I just wanted to make sure. So, yeah, I'm gonna stick with Midwest Code. All right, if there are no other questions or concerns on that matter, yep. We'll move on. Go to the 2025 budget. Revenue neutral.
So, the state, maybe 2 years ago, changed the process again, and they wanted the cities to openly support more dollars. So what had always happened was, there's a mill levy, an assessed valuation, and in most cases, in most years, the property value climbs, and even if the mill levy stays the same, it reaps more money. And that's not a bad process, but they wanted it to be more.
I'm sorry, somebody, I don't know where Chuck went, but.
Oh, he's in here, he's watching, so, unless he fell asleep.
You might want to knock on the door, see if he wants to come back in. I forgot, he was strong for that.
What's that?
What's that? Sorry, Chuck, I forgot you were gone. All right, Marty, you hit it.
Alright. So we've been through we had work sessions prior to this meeting, we went over a draft budget. The process now from the state, the last couple of years, involves the city commission deciding whether or not to go over what they call the revenue neutral rate. The revenue neutral rate is whatever the new assessed valuation is, and the mill levy that you're proposing, or the mill levy does not exceed the total dollars tax. Every year, it used to be the assessed valuation would climb, and even if you held the mill levy steady, it would yield more money. And in some cases, in some of these bigger cities, a lot more money. So they start this process where you have to now openly admit that you're going to tax more actual dollars than you did the previous year, which in most cases is going to be the case. You know, unless you're paying off some debt and you lose that payment, personnel costs, insurance costs, everything ticks up. So the process here of the draft budget, the county sends out this revenue neutral rate, and it's a mill levy. So the revenue neutral rate is 24.286. So they take the assessed valuation for this year times 24.286, and that equals the amount of dollars taxed last year. This budget that's in front of you is 25.112, and that would be times the new assessed valuation. It would yield about $20,000 extra or thereabouts. So you have to notify the county by the 20th of July that you intend to exceed the revenue neutral rate, and then you have to set a public hearing, and I have a proposed one here. So there's 2 things you have to review tonight as far as the revenue neutral rate. Now, keep in mind, the county would set out, the city has to have its own revenue neutral rate hearing and then budget hearing. This sets the maximum for the general fund. From this point on, you can lower it during the budget process. So people come in and give me an argument of why something should be reduced, you can do that. You just can't go any higher. So approving tonight does not finalize anything except the maximum. And the utility funds aren't included in this because they're not a taxing thing. That can be addressed separately, so that's not at stake tonight. So you're not approving the budget tonight. What you would be approving would be proposing to have a mill levy of 25.112. That's an estimate. The county the county clerk sets the final mill levy based on the final assessed valuation, which is not determined. And then also, what I'm proposing is a September 3rd, 2024 public hearing at 7 p.m. And then, it's in here. And then that's where you have the initial one. So about half the time the city commission approves the budget at that meeting, half the time they carry it over to the next meeting. You have until 10/1 to finalize it, if you go the route of the exceeding the revenue neutral rate. If you don't exceed the revenue neutral rate, we just have to know the county, we have to submit it to the county by August 20th. So,
could I just make one point, please, in addition to that explanation? Just to point out on page 20A. First of all, I think as we've talked about before, the revenue neutral rate doesn't make a lot of sense in our situation. We discussed that the last few years, I think. But you might see, it's important to notice that the revenue neutral rate for our proposed budget now, so the maximum is in fact lower, so the tax rate is in fact lower than either of the previous 2 years.
So last year's mill levy was 25.249. This year, if you exceed it, it would be 25.112, which would be less than last year, which would usually be my celebration.
And less than the actual 2023. So I just, so it's more dollars, but it's a lower tax rate. I just want, for a talking point, I think that's important to point out. So I don't know if, I think for sure we should send in the notification we're gonna exceed the revenue neutral rate. That's fine. Seems pretty straightforward to me. That's my opinion.
And then September 3rd would be the public hearing.
Do you wanna put that for right at 7 or 7:10?
You know, everyone else does it straight up. I always do 7:05 and 7:10,
Yeah.
and usually there's a waiting period. And we have to.
I
So,
know, but I was remembering back, and you
Well,
always.
I always did that, and I recently have not regretted it, Steve realized it. Put it at 7, 'cause it can start at 7 or later, but not earlier, and that way, you can get rolling on it. But I appreciate that catch on that, but no, I just think straight up is the answer.
Okay, and I agree with Matt on those, especially, and thank you for that explanation, Matt, you did it a lot better than I could. So I agree. If anybody else has any, go ahead.
Yes, just really 2 points. First of all, went through the budget as normal, every line item looks good. There's a couple vibrations as far as different opinions, but at the end of the day, I think it's a well-crafted budget. The only addition, which I will do a little bit more research on, double check meet with Bob and Maurice on it as far as the street capital improvement fund, and then just see if we can take that, it's about $75,000. That, it's just in a equipment line item, and actually transfer that to the street, kind of equipment capital improvement fund, so we can start a stable fund that we can allow money to increase in for anticipated large purchases, because the street equipment fund is getting pretty expensive. So that would be my only request, which I'll do a little bit of research on over the next few weeks and come back.
And I would say that, I learned a few years ago, at the end of the year, you can make an unscheduled transfer by resolution. So if Bob doesn't spend the $75,000 this year, if you wanna start that fund, getting money into it this year, you just adopt that resolution, free and I can't remember the terminology for that, and you can start that fund off if you wanted to.
But we can budget it in any case, and then add.
And then, well, so next year it'd be in the actual budget.
Yeah.
This
But I mean,
year,
we could move that $75,000 in the current budget to that.
via resolution, you could,
Yeah.
free and
I
unencumbered.
agree, that's the best way to do that, it's sitting there, let's pressurize the budget.
And all I would say is, I would wait this year to see what he actually spends on that line item, and then whatever towards the end of the year, if there's any change left over. But a lot of years there's quite a bit, 15 or 20,000 he doesn't spend, but yes, you could do that. But I just,
Okay, so, you need a motion for.
there was a consensus,
Is
I
there?
absolutely.
Chuck? Yes. Me? I believe you have your consensus. For 7 p.m. All right, next item is nuisance abatement.
Notice was sent to the property owner in question. I did speak with the engineer about the house there on the Trans and whether it's a dangerous structure, and whether they need to go inside of it or not, and he said they would have to go inside of it to make that determination. Because there's a lot of factors. Wouldn't say exactly, he said he thought for sure if he got less than $1,000, but he said plus or minus either way. So I will tell you that several years ago, and not that long ago, we asked them to take a look inside, and we denied access. And that sort of stuff. If you look at it, it looks like one of the walls is leaning a little bit, the roof has been caving in, the front is off of it, that sort of stuff. I'm not saying what you should or shouldn't do, but if you want, I doubt you'd find an engineer that would write a report without going into structure.
But that would require a warrant.
Well, if the property owner doesn't give permission, you then have to go that process. And if you do go that process, you gotta work it out between the city attorney and the engineering firm, because these warrants aren't open-ended, it's a beginning and ending period, and they'd have to make sure it's available to do it. You know what I'm saying? He was hesitant, I talked to him about it. The more he looked at the photos I sent him, the more he thought it is definitely a candidate. And that if you have, he goes, if you have a lot of pedestrian traffic on that sidewalk there, there's risk there. And you know, it's just whether you want to accept that or not, and, you know, so that's where we're at.
Yeah, every Saturday night, Sunday morning, you got families going to church that park there.
So what I would be asking for is, do you want me to have an engineer put together an agreement that would, you know, give a scope of work, so that on how to go about the process? And then have them talk with the city attorney.
Okay.
Well, I think we don't want to accept risk. So if we have to do the other thing to get a scope of work in order, is that the only way that we can do something about the building?
To declare it a dangerous structure, we would need an engineering report that would be legitimate, and to be legitimate,
And presumably the homeowner is not interested in resolving
the
this.
property owner hasn't been, and a few months ago was in talking about the other property and
Right.
made it very clear, you know, his intention, so I didn't bring up the house.
Yeah, hearsay, it's only hearsay what I heard, but hearsay was, no way in hell.
Yeah,
Was he gonna let us, he wasn't gonna voluntarily let us go.
Right, so if you have an imminent
potential,
risk
I mean, that's what this would be. I would actually be thrilled if it came back as solid as a rock. I don't think it will be, but I told you I'd look into it, and I have looked into it, looking for direction.
And say move forward with it. That's my opinion. Go ahead.
I would say no. I think it's one where you start getting into people's homes and is this it's very arbitrary. We were going to a lunch with an engineer from Manhattan and we were sitting there looking out the window of Sugar Creek over at the buildings just east of Cobb Valley State Bank. And he says, yeah, old buildings are pretty strong. I remember condemning that building many years ago and it's still standing there. It was rebuilt, but I don't think it's just because we may not like the appearance of something. Yeah, to say that, hey, you gotta mow your grass and do some basics, that's fine, but to start picking and choosing, which it's not, I don't see a danger in that structure. It's not gonna hurt anybody, so I would be opposed.
That's my question, is there a risk?
Others,
I don't know.
I'm not sure what the odds are, I just report back, what the engineer said.
I mean, I would very much like you to reach out to the property owner again and see if he voluntarily let us.
Well, I may be hearing from him, because the letter we sent on the other property next to it was received Monday. I did notice a little typo in there, I gave him till Monday the 23rd. That wasn't part of the official notice, but that was just the made, so that was Tuesday the 23rd. So there's no, yes.
Yes.
And the other three,
This is a great night for agreeing with both sides. I think it'd be prudent to get an assessment. I would rather that he agree with that, but I mean,
Chuck?
I concur with Matthew.
maybe we should look into it. I mean, I would like to imagine the building's not gonna do anything, but if something happens to it, it's gonna be on this, pedestrians are injured walking by. I think we should at least do due diligence on it, so I would like to look into it, but I would agree with Matt, and prefer it be with the homeowner's permission.
Can you guess?
Yes.
So, just so we're clear on what's gonna happen is that I'm not gonna put out feelers for engineers, I'm just gonna follow with Pat Cox and PG Consultants and have them, now I talked to them about it for about 40 minutes on Friday and have them draw up an agreement. And that's it. And we have to make it contingent upon the actual getting inside, so there's still a chance that the property owner will comply. But, so the decision hasn't been made to enter the property, which is basically a storage shed. I just want permission to put together an agreement, if that makes sense.
Go ahead.
Just a quick question. Once again, just can you clarify the address?
It's right next to the golf cart shop.
So 105, the whole house structure,
It's a storage shed.
and what is the,
So on
what's the
the,
problem that is?
so on the
the concern?
east side, there's a gouge in the roof that's like this, and then the front thing that's fallen off, there's raccoons that live up in there. And then on the other side, Pat thought one of the walls might be leaning, from one of the photos I sent.
So the concern is that it might fall down and hurt somebody?
That there could be something like that.
Well, or, there's raccoons.
Correct.
They're rabid, did they get rabid, did they bite someone walking by? I mean, I don't.
I haven't
know
seen,
raccoon
they
shed.
might be on vacation, I haven't seen them in a while, but they do have a presence there, so keep in mind, the engineer could, the structural engineer that would come out and look at it may agree with, hey, the outside of it does look fine, that roof, that's cosmetic, but that's what I think we need to
Yeah,
pass.
I mean, I think the bottom line is, as long as it doesn't represent a potential risk to citizens, we should just leave it alone. But if it presents a potential risk to citizens, I think that's where I think it's prudent.
We're taking the next step, and it'll be a mediocre step, I mean,
And I agree, with Matthew, Chuck, I agree that, I don't wanna just run in there and say, your building is being condemned. If it turns out that it doesn't, so be it. I would hope that he would be reasonable enough and just let us go look.
yes, so we'll do that. And then another nuisance, is at 123 North Sixth, it's over there by the lumberyard. Someone recently complained about it, and I said recently, about 2 months ago, and Bob Shinner and I met.
Oh, the old lumberyard.
Yeah, the lumberyard, yeah. So what the arrangement we're trying to work out with this gentleman, because the guy who owns it lives in Florida, so it's his handyman and all that sort of stuff. And he had this stuff on another lot on the south part of town, that neighbor complained, he moved it to the north side of town, just cross tracks there. And people were saying, well, it took 18 months for people to complain. So they're complaining now, so we put a trailer over there from the city and asked him to put the stuff he considers garbage, and we'll haul it off. We won't put it on it for there, we'll just haul it off, and we'll reassess it. There's a little tent city over there, has little pathways cutting through it, and it's just, just let you know everything that new one.
Okay.
And the other ones I'm still following up on to some degree, but I just need to make progress on the term.
Sorry, there's tent city somewhere.
Well, so over at 123, the property is owned by Alton Cochran, but it's this guy named Terry Pavelka. And he has a bunch of miscellaneous merchandise that he calls his little treasures piled up. And then there's a tent, there's a tarp spread over the top of it. And
You were so generous.
And he has a path for his building. I did not enter his tent city, Bob inspected it. So some of it's just aluminum, if I said that right, aluminium, she says. That's good. So he has added wood and lumber, just a whole bunch of stuff. Some of which he's already agreed is just garbage. That sort of stuff. So what we're trying to do is the same thing we do with Mr. Whistler. Let us take what you agree with and then we'll reassess it. And we just want to get going on this. So anyway, I haven't even sent a letter, I just called the property owner, and, he's very cooperative and we're on it.
Okay,
So in case you hear something.
that is on the nuisance.
I'm complete, yes.
Okay, golf course.
So you'd asked me to look at that contract.
Yes.
I don't have it rated percent, but it looks like if you move forward with it, you want the company, whoever it is, to be an independent contractor and not a partner with the city. And this contract has different angles to it. One, they require the city to buy the insurance. Another time, they wanna recommend employees to the city to demand. So the whole point is I went through and I've kind of chopped it up. I don't know if it'll be acceptable for anybody, but I think it just needs to have one direction, and that means everything's a facility cost that is relevant to it, and then the rest of it, you have to decide on. So I don't have any percent, but there should be something by the next meeting.
And the grant,
So we've been talking about this grant for a while, the deadline's approaching September 13th, I believe. So it's 51 pages. I gave a copy to everybody, I want everybody to review it and offer comment. We can definitely do it. There are companies out there that assist with this, I've never dealt with one, I know they do it. I don't know what the odds are of even getting it to begin with, and then if it's not done in the proper manner, and all sorts of stuff, but I'm not asking for a decision, I just pass it out for everybody to look at and offer comment, and we decide what direction to go after this.
you're not looking for a decision on whether we move forward with the grant application?
Well, I thought you were gonna do that.
Yes.
So I put it out for you guys to review, I want you to review whether we're gonna do it internally, or we're gonna try to find assistance. And that's not to decide tonight, because it just was it wasn't on the agenda.
Okay, well then, yeah, let's make sure we get that on the agenda.
And in the meantime, I'll try to find a company that can assist with the process and see what the terms are. If it's no cost unless it gets funded, because that is a common, way to do it.
Can you look into, I had the understanding that it was up to 50%. But the language on this first page, just looking, says it is 50%. So I would like to just clarify on that. I think the way I'm reading it is for 50% of eligible expenses, but I just want to clarify on that. I thought it was like a sliding scale, like they might give 20%, 30%, but it looks like.
Well, 50% eligible expenses up to the amount approved for the project.
Right, if it's $1 million project,
Well, but I'm saying is, you can put together $1 million project, and they say, we're interested in 350,000 of it. We'll go 50% on the 350. I'm not sure if you put a big number in front of it, it's automatically 50%.
Okay.
But
that's what
it's worth clarifying, yes.
Yeah, well, I wanna, yeah, what are the, I mean, I guess I could
Can I,
dive.
on the golf course?
Yes.
I'd like to, at the risk of, making even more friends here today, I would like to back up a minute, because I am still not convinced that we have looked at all the different options. I know that we've worked on this contract that was presented to us from a single source, Great Lake. I did some quick research, because in my mind, it's probably not reasonable to believe that there's only one company that can do the thing that makes this new idea, makes bringing the golf course back worthwhile, which is the technology. So I did a little golf tracing technology. So I did I'm not an expert at all, but I found something called TrackMan, and I've been talking to a couple of guys who work for that company. I had a call it started with one who does the simulation part, and then the other guy who's in charge of their range technology, which is the direct comparison. And my only point here is there are other options, and they do this, and they, according to them, they are in fact the industry standard, because they use radar rather than a camera. They're the ones who do all the PGA stuff, and But my point is that they are willing to provide us an informational brief if we would like it, which I think makes sense. And they partner with, they sent me a brief just before we did this started, which I'll happily forward to Maurice so that he can forward it to everyone else. As part of the due diligence part, I think Nate said last time, you think we completed the RFP process. I don't think we have, because we never asked him. We found someone and then he came in and sold us his product, which might be a great product. I'm really not arguing that. I'm just saying we haven't looked at other options. And given that we spoke to any number of people to talking just about projects that either might be big or might not be so big, in any case, the roofs, I think we should listen to these guys and see what because even then, I'm not, in my mind, I'm not completely convinced that we've seen all of the numbers, we don't know how much money might be able to get through that convince us that we should go forward with it all. These are more data to consider. So I at least want you guys to look at this and see that there is another technology option. It's actually pretty interesting talking to the guy who does the simulation centers, because he said that in fact more rounds of simulated golf were played last year than actual golf, which I'm not sure that's a good thing, but that's the reality, and which does support the fact that there's a market there. I started thinking about it and considered the idea that, hey, wouldn't it be kind of cool if in fact we had a simulation center at the park where I don't even have a golf course at all, because you don't have to worry about all that stuff, and people can come to the business area and go play golf in the park. Now that would require a building, and I'm not trying to solve that, but that would be an excellent entrepreneurial option for people, because guess what, there are companies who partner with them and will come in and do it. So I just think there are some other options that we should look at, in addition to assuming that we want to revivify the 9-hole golf course.
Is there anything you need me to do?
Well, I will send you this, I'd like you to.
I mean, other than that.
Well, assuming that you're interested, I would contact these guys to come give us an informational brief so we can at least look at other possibilities.
Not that I wouldn't be interested in hearing about it, but the reasons, Great Life, the reason I wanna go with Great Life are more than just the top tracer. The top tracer, according to Rick Ferrant, the owner of Great Life, is, he doesn't want to do the project without it, obviously. But we are also looking at, Great Life Topeka is, I think they have, I wanna say 7 golf courses, maybe 6 golf courses, that we would then be adding St. Mary's to that group of courses. Then anybody that has a Great Life membership can play in any one of those courses.
Right, I understand that.
So
But
that,
that's-
and I don't know if this other company or any other company would have that benefit, but then and in addition to that, on top of that, Rick has agreed to basically draw a 10-mile radius around the city of St. Mary's, and anybody that has a Great Life membership that falls within that radius, St. Mary's then becomes their home course. So right now, and when I purchased my Great Life membership, I purchased it at Western Hills. So every month, my I believe it's $48 a month, goes to Western Hills. So we would automatically, with Great Life, be getting, I don't know if you remember the exact number of memberships, but we would automatically be getting.
I understand that, but that's their pitch to us. These are the advantages of doing it with us. I think there are other people who could pitch other things to us, and maybe they're not compelling, but we haven't listened to anyone else. And I'm not comfortable marketing for them. I want to focus on, do we want to do this thing? And if so, what's the best way to do it? And given that, the one difference that we've focused on from the beginning between the golf course that was deliberately shut down by this commission because it was not cost effective, and the new golf course would be the technology. So that's why I'm focusing in on the technology. I think we owe it to ourselves and to the taxpayers who will end up paying it some way, for this golf course, to at least see what the other options are. Because I don't even play golf, and I thought this was pretty cool. To see that, so I'd be interested, and they seem very willing to give us a talk. They've partnered with people who do, and of course, everything looks good on the fly, but they partnered with people who come in and set up either just a range with entertainment and the restaurant thing, or apparently there's another guy I need to call, who works with underparlife.com, who actually works with municipalities on golf courses. I think it's worth talking to him, that's all I'm saying. So I would like to arrange for that, assuming you guys are interested.
I'm not interested, I wanna move forward with Great Life, so that's just me. But yeah, I think we've been, we've had over a year and a half plus to, if there was anybody else out there who could have found them, I think Great Life offers the best proposal available. I mean, I know we haven't had
We never
anybody else.
had an RFQ, so it's not like we've asked for anyone else, this is my whole point.
And that's fine, if the majority wants to have a presentation, let's do it. But I'm not interested in it, I would just like, so that's just me. But I just wanna move forward with a contract with Great Life and try and get this thing done.
Well, so we're at another impasse because I don't.
Okay.
I don't just wanna move forward, that's the point.
No, that's fine, I mean, and no, we're not at an impasse, because we got 5 people, so we're definitely not at an impasse on this particular. What we are at is to determine if a majority of the commission wants to look at this company or anybody else. And if that's the case, so be it, I'll go with the majority. But if the majority wants to move forward, don't have an interest in it, or a combination of something else, that's fine. But I'm not interested in looking at other companies. I would like to move forward with a contract with Great.
So I would like to see that. I do think Trackman's cool. I think there's a couple things. So yeah, I'm interested in seeing that. Would like to understand more. I mean, for me, I think we already had a location to do something, and it was built for golf, and I would love to see it come back. I think it's a great option for the community. I do want to understand if they are gonna put a proposal in, like, what does that look like? I think it is crucial that this is out of the city's hands from a management perspective, and so, but I think the more important thing is I do think moving forward with the grant, because either way, regardless of whether it's Great Life or if there was some proposal that came out of this, there's going to be a cost to bring it back. I would love to defray that as much as possible. And with the deadline coming up, I do think I would like to see us move forward in some capacity on the grant. And to the Great Life piece, I mean, if you can clean up the contract to make it at least
Well,
fully.
it gets, in my opinion, it's 3 different ideas, and it's not what you're looking for, or something you're looking for. You're looking for a municipal contractor that's gonna run it, I think, and then, because that thing there about cash advances, I mean, that's just crazy. The thing about recommending the employees that they're gonna hire, that is something you don't wanna be involved in. They're gonna handle that. So then about a third of that contract is just what I call legalese, that I'm not even gonna mess with, that's for attorneys and stuff like that. So it's not gonna be a huge time effort, and if nothing materializes from it, so be it, you'll at least have gone and put out your ideas on the path you wanna go, and then Great Life can say whether that's acceptable or whoever you choose. That makes sense? So it won't be a huge time investment, because I'm not gonna try to write a contract per se. I'm gonna try to hammer out a plan and make sure that they know we're not gonna have cash advances, and we're not gonna need a separate auditor, because they're gonna be, doing the audit.
So do we have 2 questions before us then? Do you wanna answer the question, do we move forward with the contract?
It's up to you. I've tore into it as a result of the last meeting. I just haven't finished.
Okay, well, and then, the other question then is the other option that Matt put forward. Do we wanna, I mean,
Well, so if you're going for the grant, you're gonna have all that figured out to what to put in the grant.
Yep.
So, I don't know what kind of proposal it is, what kind of time, I looked into that, you sent that to me. Their most advanced one is like 50 grand, and we've got space behind here that they can set one up for a few weeks. And if you want to try it out, they started like 18 or 19,000, but to really deck them out to
That's the
50.
simulation, but they do have range technology as well, which would map into using the course. I mean, we could put it at the park, we could put a driving range at the park if you wanted. But the point is, it's just even moving forward with the golf course option, apparently, there are other people in the business, okay?
So I don't, you can make a decision on the grant or not, I put it before you because it's been out there. The time is getting close, if you wanna formally do something, that's fine. I just wanted to know if you want us to do it, which includes you, or you want us to try to find someone that specializes in these types of grants that could increase the odds of it being successful.
do you want a decision on that tonight, or do you want?
Well, no, I want you to go through, if you think the grant looks simple and we can just hammer it
Okay,
out,
all right, so
we don't need to go outside.
then we
I mean,
can put that on the agenda for the next
We'll just
meeting.
keep golf course going and we'll cover golf course, if that makes sense.
And then as far as Matthew's proposal, you want a consensus on that?
If you wanna move forward with that?
I'll just ask them to come talk to the
Okay,
commission. Okay.
Chuck? I say no.
I'm open to hearing.
Sure you.
If the question is, does somebody wanna come to present, sounds great. Always fun learning about other things. If the question is moving forward with something with completely undefined terms, full speed ahead, I think that's not a good practice to follow. I think there is a process, and the process has not been followed, and that's why there's such confusion and a lack of understanding of what's even going on. There has to be an RFP or RFQ put out that clearly defines the terms of what is actually up for consideration. And until that happens, nobody knows what's the city's actually looking for and what are the parameters in which to play. So I think the conversation's fun and all, but at the same time, it's gonna go nowhere, and it should go nowhere because nothing's been defined and we don't know where we're going. So as far as the presentation coming, sure, that sounds great. As far as moving forward with the contract, I don't know that that's even possible because we don't even know the terms. And as far as moving forward with the grant, we don't even know what is for it, I'm opposed to the grant to begin with. So yes on the presentation, no on the remainder.
I say, okay, I disagree with you on the fact that, A, we don't have to put out an RFQ, we don't have to put out an RFP, we're not legally obligated to do either one. So, and I think we've had a lot of, we haven't moved as quickly as I'd like to see us on getting a contract with Great Life, but that's what I'd like to see us do, is get that contract hammered out with Great Life. There is an interest with what I believe is the majority of the commission, and there's an interest on the part of Great Life to see.
It's just not an independent contractor concept, there's three different things going on there, and it's not in anyone's best interest. I think
Right, I agree with that.
they combine the previous contract, the city that they manage their employees for, and all that sort of stuff, but that's it.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. All right.
Secret.
What's that? Riverside,
Oh, Riverside Park.
Riverside Park, CCA.
You asked that that be put on the agenda.
Yeah,
That's the meeting. So, the common consumption area is official for downtown, as you guys approved. Cheers, does, you'd ask that the park be in consideration. Now, there's two ways. One, you could set up a separate common consumption area with the city being the sponsor, or I think you probably modify the ordinance that was just adopted and include the park. I'm not sure, if you'd have to get the chamber on board with that. I'm not sure how you folks feel about it. That's what I understand is going on, right?
Well, or, yeah, but the chamber is somewhat responsible for their,
They are the permit holder.
Yeah, they are.
right, yeah, so I don't think that would be the case in the park though, because
So then the city would have to set one up, and the city would be the permit
Well,
holder.
this is fine, but if I could just, again, I'd like to step back. I think I was the one who asked the question, if we have now legal for people to have something alcoholic to drink in the downtown area, ending at the park, could we not just say, well, why don't we just make it legal for people to drink alcohol in the park? Which I don't think does that mean that it's a common consumption area, or we just change the rules about it? Because in the park it says you can't do, but every time someone asks, we waive it. So
Technically, you're supposed to adopt a resolution recognizing it as a special event, and
But it
I
doesn't
know,
have to be that way.
well, what is it, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're just saying, don't make it a common consumption area, just make it that it's permissible
Right.
as is. And so the city controls considerable beverages, and if there's no signs down there prohibiting it, then the code doesn't have to be changed, the signs just have to be taken down. As far as
I
that-
want to be, as people like to say these days, I want to be clear. I'm not saying, well, everyone drinking all the time, What I'm saying is, we already have rules against things like public drunkenness and disorderly conduct, right? The effects of
You're just
potential
wanting to
effects.
remove the restrictions.
Yeah, because we have these people coming right up to this border. Maybe we want the border. I just think that it's interesting that very frequently we waive the rule. And now we happen to be establishing a common consumption area that comes right up to that place. That's really the point of discussion, and it seems to me you just change the rules in the park rather than expanding the common consumption.
I just have a quick question in regards to that. So we're opening up common consumption to the park. I understand like special events, but like what about families that are coming there to have picnics every? Would that open it up to that as well? Okay.
And if someone is taking a walk with his or her children or their children, and they walk into the park, they bought a beer, and they have to stop you, or could they go in?
So what you're asking for is to just make it legal to drink in the park, without it being part of anything else.
I think so, I think that's the cleanest way, because I don't think we want to give the chamber control over that area.
absolutely, right, no, I agree with you 100%. No, I think that's the easiest way, is just say it's permissible under the law and to.
Or we don't, I mean, I'm not saying we should, I just think
That clears it up for me if there's no other comments on it. I think that is.
Hold on, we have somebody, Teresa, come on up, sorry.
Okay, like the park is for the kids. So why do you wanna have people drinking in the park all the time?
Well, like Matt said, every time a group or someone has come to us and said,
But this is
As-
on a daily basis, right?
it's happening on a daily basis already. And I'm not justifying changing it just based on that, but like Matt said, every time a group has come to us, like an event, hey, can we get the alcohol ban lifted? We always say yes.
And I think that's fine. But when you do it like this and say, you know, someone drinks a little too much, goes out, has an accident, you know, who does that come back on? Is it just with them?
Person who drank too much.
The person who drank too much.
I mean, that's why, I mean, that we have laws.
Don't they have to kind of watch like at bars and stuff, you know, someone drinking too much, you take cookies?
I mean,
Something like that?
I've heard of, lawsuits like that. I don't know if the law gets into prosecuting people. I'm not sure.
I mean, I just wondered out of curiosity.
I think it's about personal responsibility. And like I said, we have disorderly conduct laws, we have drunk and disorderly conduct laws.
So will it be policed more, will the city police kind of be going through there more, making sure that people aren't getting
Yeah, I don't know,
out
I
of
mean,
control?
if we thought there were a one-to-one correspondence between people consuming alcohol and bad things happening, like that always happens, we probably wouldn't have established a common consumption area, you know what I'm saying? So what, something simple like, you go to a baseball game, is it not reasonable to be able to have a beer while you're watching a baseball game?
And I get that, I get that.
And that
I
happens,
was
you
in
know.
I was in that age where people did that, and that's why the signs went up.
Well, yeah, so that's.
And that's why, yes, I went, it's not my fault.
Oh, yeah, and again, I don't wanna be perceived as pushing this, I'm just saying, if we have said we trust people enough to have a common consumption area that goes right up to the park, do we not trust them enough?
Well, I mean, I just remember back then,
Yeah,
you know, there were kids there.
Yeah.
And people were,
there'll be kids walking up and
there's
down.
always gonna be someone that gets out of hand, and people just got really upset.
So that is the essential discussion point or concern, that's true.
Okay,
And
I just wondered.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve?
Okay, the only reason, well, because I promised somebody I would put it on here. In the last 48 hours, 3 people have contacted me, and I know I've said this before, these gaps in, I know they got other jobs, I get it, but why are we taking so long in between?
I'm not certain of why there are delays. I do know that the agreement the city signed gave them 55 working days, not including weekends or rainouts, that sort of stuff. That time period has not been exceeded. While we were doing some of the common things on the RFQ, I did get the permit for the railroad sign and send off, but so I don't think that's really the whole lot, that was part of it, because they couldn't build near the railroad in the right of way. But I don't know, I can try to find out specifically why. I'm sure it's because they know the job's working on it.
I told them I would ask.
And they haven't exceeded the time allowed in the contract, so I should follow up on that, I suppose, to see what the plans are, because they do have quite a bit to do.
Thank you.
Go ahead. On that note, sometimes things are said, just so there's 5 members up here. So from my perspective, the contractor's got a job to do, they're doing it within the terms of the contract. I have no problem with it, and I know people have questions, but sometimes it's important to just say, the contractor's doing a job, they have the time window, there's nothing wrong going on. They don't have to be out there working every day. So just because somebody has a complaint, it's fine, but sometimes it's important to just explain the reality of things take time, and there's a contract, they're working within the confines of the contract, and they'll get done, just like they have in the past. So just wanna make sure that it's not my opinion that the contractor's doing anything wrong, or that we need to really put any pressure on things wrong.
So they have previously done projects, they would send out weekly or twice a month, whatever, updates, and I haven't seen those yet, but we'll probably be getting those, and so that can explain it, so, I have questions, if you're ready for them.
Go for it.
All right, on the Palmer Road Bridge, you decided to get a second opinion, do I contact someone, do you have to in mind? Ask an engineering firm for, so some years ago, we had a Call Valley out of Junction City, that person left that firm. They came out and did a bridge inspection for us, but it was just a checklist. And that was it. What are we looking for there on the Palmer Road Bridge, second opinion?
Right now, it's only the county who's done assessment.
But they had, it's in the packet, I don't know who did it, it may have been.
They have it.
They had an engineering firm.
Whoever.
Bartlett West. Nathan Bartlett West may have been the one who did it, but they may have someone else. So I just, I can report to the county that you're considering it, but you want a second opinion. And I just wanna know.
Yeah, I don't think it's, I don't think we're under a severe time crunch here to.
I don't know, not in that world, so I don't know who that might be.
Okay. I guess you could report that you're looking for someone to give us an opinion, and that takes time.
So is that what we're tasking you to do?
Looking for someone.
When you say we, let's be a little more precise.
In spirit, you know, well.
Well, I don't know, if you want. Are you willing to do that?
So find somebody.
Yeah, or.
Well, just do like so it'd be like the way I handled the structural engineer too, Pat Cox, or I would talk with Nathan to see if he knows of somebody that, we seem to know each other, and who can do what. But that is what we're looking for, a second opinion. Yes?
So I would say, yeah, I mean, I think we've only heard two options, which was a new bridge or like a, would turn into like a motocross jump or just fill it in with,
But that's not on the.
but, I mean, I haven't heard, I don't think I've heard any repair options, maybe I was just saying it's condemned, but I just wanna know what are our options, because they're jumping into a new bridge.
Well, so they were here a year ago, and they did go over some of that, but I understand, they would have been here to answer those questions, I gave them.
Well, I think that's part of the second opinion, to do a comprehensive assessment on what are not only.
Okay, all right, I got that. On the storm damage RFQs, I assume one of those companies would be in touch to work on some agreement, that's the next step. The budget, you know, I know what to report to the county and put in the paper. The nuisance abatement, just to be clear, you didn't issue a warrant to do it. All we're gonna do is get the structural engineer to put a plan in writing and what it would cost. Upper limit, you know, a lot of times it'd be not to exceed number. And then I'll come back to you, and also, hopefully we'll have been in contact with the property owner then because of the previous letter that was sent. And I'll broach that subject.
By the way, I measured it on Google Earth, it looks like it's 15 feet from the sidewalk.
Sure.
I don't know if that means that there would be a really big risk if it fell down or not. It's probably not a 15-foot building. Just something to.
Yeah. In the Riverside Park, you're asking for just to make it lawful to have alcoholic liquor and cereal beverages in there as a default, and that kind of stuff.
That's a good question, how did we enter it? We'll wait for next time.
Which one? Oh, that one, well, I mean, I know that, that's what City Attorney, and the secret, I'll find out how many working days have expired, because it's not, there are days that don't count, and if it was rainy or something like that, yeah. So, I have another report.
Mr. Mayor, to adjourn. We have a motion to adjourn, do we have a second? Second. Motion and a second to adjourn, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.